Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine, for a moment, being humanity, newly arrived on the galactic scene.
Right.
You've just joined the most exclusive, uh, ancient club in the universe. A council chamber gleaming under the light of three suns, made up of 200 different species.
And some of these empires have been starfaring for 10,000 years. Or Earth, I mean, they'd only had warp capability for about 50 years. They were absolutely the clever but very junior new kid.
And that was the political reality Ambassador Sarah Chen was facing.
Exactly. She was representing a species that the established elite, especially, giants like the massive Vorak Empire, they just saw them as naive, emotionally volatile, and critically militarily insignificant.
So the conflict we're diving into today, it isn't just a military spat.
No, not at all. It's a foundational philosophical collision. It's the Vorak's ancient, power-based hierarchy clashing with humanity's, well, uncompromising approach to codified law.
And our mission for this deep dive is to trace that path. How we get from a seemingly minor territorial dispute and a horrific technical failure to the systematic annihilation of a 2,000-year-old empire in less than 3 days.
And in the process, rewriting galactic law completely.
We're going to examine the sources that explain how Earth leveraged this tragedy to usher in a new human-enforced galactic order.
And this story, it really begins not with a whisper of diplomacy, but with a roar of intimidation.
Precisely. We open with Commander Thrak of the Vorak Empire. He shows up before the council. He's 9 feet of scarred warrior, and he is furious.
Because in his mind, humans have stolen 17 systems in the outer spiral.
So for the Vorak, what was their claim based on?
It's what they call honor claims. Thrak argued that the Vorak had defended those systems for 8 centuries. They'd spilled blood, spent resources, protecting them from pirates and raiders.
The might makes right, essentially.
Yeah, that's it. In this older, more relativistic system, history, and physical strength equal legal ownership, the human claims were seen as basically piracy, backed by nothing but paper.
But Chen's counter was something totally foreign to them. Bureaucracy.
She just pointed out that Earth had followed every single rule of the established galactic law. They filed the exploration claims, they conducted exhaustive surveys, submitted everything to the council registry.
Exactly as the law required.
Exactly, and this is the fatal blind spot for the Vorak. They saw that legal structure as, a suggestion, a framework to be ignored when it was inconvenient.
So Chen wasn't arguing morality, she was arguing legal precedent.
A precedent set by the very species who are now defying it. The Vorak system was pure might makes right, but the humans were holding them to the letter of their own bureaucratic law.
And Thrak just saw this as weakness. He completely rejected the idea of paperwork overriding 800 years of fighting.
He issued a crude, direct ultimatum. Withdraw all claims, pay a significant tribute, and formally acknowledge that junior species do not challenge their betters.
And they had 30 standard days to comply.
The calculation was simple for them. A small, weak species will always fold when faced with overwhelming power. They expected a quick, face-saving surrender.
So why didn't Earth just comply? I mean, this seems like a moment for strategic retreat, right?
Well, Chen calculated that backing down wouldn't solve the problem. It would actually define Earth as a political soft target forever.
So it sets a precedent.
A terrible one. If they conceded a legally valid claim just because of a military threat, every one of the 200 species would start chipping away at human territory. Chen knew that this 30-day ultimatum was the galaxy's test of whether humanity was predator or prey.
And their survival as an independent power hinged on rejecting it?
Completely.
So the Vorak responded by trying to, quote, teach respect.
Yes. They launched what they considered professional, targeted strikes against the human colony New Geneva. They focused only on military and industrial facilities. It was meant to be a painful but contained military lesson.
But technology fails.
And it failed at the absolute worst moment. The sources are very clear on this. It wasn't malice. It was a tragic, freak technical failure.
What happened?
The targeting computer on Thrak's flagship registered a minor bug. A calibration error, something that happens maybe once in a million firings. A high-energy plasma beam, which was aimed at a communications array, it shifted 3 degrees off target.
And that 3-degree shift hit the New Geneva Children's Hospital.
847 children. Vaporized instantly.
Oh, wow.
The fallout was immediate. Thrak ceased fire. And to his credit, adhering to their ancient codes of honor, he expressed profound shame. He offered immediate, unprecedented reparations.
Because they were warriors, not monsters.
Exactly. The targeting of younglings was universally sacred. It was a line no empire was supposed to cross, even by accident. Everyone on the council expected this to be settled with massive compensation and, legal proceedings.
But instead of protests or diplomatic outrage, Earth gave a response that just paralyzed the galaxy.
Absolute complete silence.
For 3 straight days, Earth went dark. No one knew what was happening. And it was terrifying precisely because it was so devoid of emotion.
Then, on the 4th day, Chen returned. She accepted the apology, acknowledged the deaths were unintentional, and then she withdrew all territorial claims.
Signaling a complete de-escalation.
The council just breathed this collective sigh of relief. They thought the crisis was over, settled by human pragmatism.
And then came the request.
One small request, 30 days, to construct a simple memorial for the children before signing the final peace accords.
And they granted it instantly. They saw it as mature, a sorrowful closure.
But this is the massive miscalculation, that 3-day silence. It wasn't just grief.
It was mobilization.
It was the activation of a war machine. During those 72 hours, Admiral Marcus Rodriguez activated Project Deep Strike.
So the galaxy thought Earth had, what, a minimal self-defense force?
That's what they were led to believe. But Earth, learning from its own tumultuous history, had spent 50 years preparing for exactly this moment.
Okay, wait a minute. This is a deep dive, so let's get into the mechanics here.
Yeah.
How does a junior species, under all that galactic scrutiny, hide the industrial capacity to build an invasion fleet?
It was brilliant, really. The sources show they used asymmetric deterrence and extreme decentralization. So they complied with all the visible council limits on shipbuilding.
But they had hidden yards.
Deep orbit hitting yards. They were reusing and adapting captured alien tech, which made their small fleet disproportionately fast. And they used these deep underground legacy industrial complexes, places in Siberia, coastal China.
So Vorak intelligence was looking at the wrong thing.
They were looking at visible shipyard capacity. They completely failed to account for Earth's deep strike rapid assembly capability. The numbers are just staggering.
What are we talking about?
Vorak intelligence thought they were facing maybe a few dozen ships. Earth had 1,800 ships ready for immediate deployment.
1,800.
And enough war material to, and this is a direct quote from the files, glass every Vorak world simultaneously.
My God. So the Vorak expected a conventional defense.
And they were facing a species prepared for total extermination. Rodriguez's order was cold, activate Operation Memorial.
This wasn't a punitive strike.
No, this was a strategic campaign designed to destroy the future identity of their enemy.
So the galaxy is expecting what, some border skirmishes?
Right. What they witnessed instead was calculated terror designed to dismantle a civilization's sense of self. And it was executed in 3 just chilling phases.
Okay, let's break them down. Phase 1.
Phase 1 was cultural annihilation, or as the human command called it, the message. The target selection here tells you everything you need to know about the human mindset.
They didn't hit the Vorak fleet.
Nope. Not military installations either. They targeted 18 of the most sacred Vorak worlds, including Coraval, the Empire's spiritual center for 1,500 years.
And the destruction was focused.
Laser-focused. Ancient temples, vast libraries holding the history of their warrior codes, monuments to their greatest heroes, 2,000 years of civilization systematically reduced to radioactive craters.
And 0 collateral damage to military assets.
None.
And the communication that followed.
Brutally clear and perfectly proportional. You killed 847 of our children. We have destroyed 847 of your most sacred sites. This is just the beginning.
Let's pause on that.
Yeah.
Why that specific cold proportionality? A cultural site for every child. Why was that the strategy?
Because the Vorak system operated on equivalent exchange, but in material terms. A ship for a ship, a life for a life. Humans introduced a new, non-negotiable exchange rate. The future for the past. By destroying exactly 847 monuments, they were forcing the Vorak leadership to see that 847 dead children carried the weight of their entire cultural heritage. It was psychological leverage that just changed the entire moral calculus of the war instantly.
So once their past was erased, phase 2 targeted their future.
Military decapitation. They didn't go after the current warriors. They went after the institutions that trained the next 10 generations.
The academies.
Every major naval academy, officer training facility, military logistics university across the entire empire. This was about eliminating expertise, not just manpower.
And the weaponry they used.
Yeah.
Sources detail something horrific in its specificity.
Neutron devices.
Yeah.
Weapons that kill all living personnel instantly. but leave the buildings, the communication gear, all the infrastructure completely intact.
That is the strategic genius of it, isn't it?
It is. They removed the vital knowledge, the leadership potential, the intellectual capital of the empire without giving the Vorak a chance to rally around, bombed out buildings. The infrastructure of their empire remained, ready to be repurposed, but the people who knew how to run it were gone.
So their military training capacity was just gone.
Reduced by an estimated 97%, they destroyed the empire's ability to regenerate itself as a threat.
So the destruction of identity, then the surgical elimination of future leadership, the actual war, the fleet engagement, it was basically a mop-up operation at that point.
That's right, which brings us to Phase 3, the fleet engagement. The human fleet, they only needed 60 of their advanced ships. Engaged the Vorak home defense fleet above Korath.
And these human ships, with that asymmetric propulsion and advanced targeting.
They were just faster, more maneuverable, better in every conceivable way. The result wasn't a battle. It was a 2-hour annihilation. The Vorak home fleet, the pride of their empire, just reduced to debris.
And that's when Admiral Lisa Chen delivered the final message.
She contacted war leader Drummer directly and said, "This is what humans call total war. It means we don't stop until our enemy no longer exists as a functional civilization."
And Dremor surrendered.
Unconditionally, to spare the rest of his people.
So Chen returns to the council, which I imagine is in chaos.
Complete chaos and overwhelming fear. The political leaders of the galaxy were just confused. Counselor Vexthai protested that humans had ignored galactic law standard reparations for what looked like uncontrolled vengeance.
And Chen's justification became the foundational document of this new galactic order.
She explained that galactic law was written by species who view warfare as a game with established rules. But humans, she said, they fight for survival. That's what they learned from 10,000 years of genocide and existential conflict on their own homeworld.
When an existential threat emerges, the rules cease to exist.
She was basically invoking Clausewitzian principles. War is politics by other means, and human politics demanded absolute safety at any cost.
And then came the final twist, the revelation that stunned the delegates into silence.
She revealed that the entire calculated campaign of cultural and military annihilation was executed without a single deliberate Vorak civilian death.
That's the part that's so chilling they could have wiped them out.
They had the capacity for total physical extermination. But Chen made a specific, cold choice, and her justification defined the outcome. She said, "We didn't kill the Vorak people, Elder Kais. We killed their civilization, their culture, their ability to see themselves as mighty warriors, and we left them alive to remember what they had lost."
The proportionality was complete and psychological.
The Vorak took the futures of 847 human children. Humans took the future of the Vorak civilization. The enemy remained, but their identity, their reason for being, was permanently destroyed.
So with the Vorak Empire neutralized, Chen shifts from being the defendant to the enforcer.
She presents the Vorak Accords, a new treaty that was essentially a global mandate for human military hegemony.
And the demands were non-negotiable.
Article 1, an absolute, immediate, total war response to any attack, intentional or accidental, on human civilian populations.
And Article 2 fundamentally changed the power structure.
It gave humanity veto power over all Galactic Council military actions.
Then Article 3 created the choice.
Mutual defense obligations. Sign, and you get Earth's absolute brutal protection. Refuse, and you face the galaxy alone, and you might just be deemed a threat by the species that wiped out the Vorak in 72 hours.
She gave them 7 days to decide.
The delegates debated the morals, the philosophical cost of surrendering their political autonomy to a species that had just been so ruthless.
But the choice was already made for them, wasn't it?
The facts made the choice. A tactical analysis circulated that confirmed human forces could achieve total victory against the combined military forces of the entire galaxy within 6 months. The price of autonomy was extinction. The price of compliance was survival.
The vote came in.
197 in favor, 0 opposed, 3 abstentions.
And just like that, the era of diplomatic equals was over. Human military dominance was now the law. This wasn't just a win, this was establishing hegemony.
And Chen closed the session with a guarantee. The accords meant that any species under their protection would have their children safeguarded because, and I quote, "they'll be our children too."
So the memorial for the children of New Geneva, it was never a statue.
It was the new galactic order itself, a guarantee of absolute safety for all children in known space, enforced by the chilling certainty of total proportional destruction for any aggressor.
So what does this deep dive really reveal? I mean, the Vorak assumed humans would fight a civilized war based on limited objectives and honor.
They completely mistook human diplomacy and their adherence to law for weakness, for reluctance. They failed to understand that the junior species was actually a veteran predator that had just been waiting for an acceptable reason to unleash its full, terrifying capability.
It shows that true power isn't just about having the biggest fleet.
It's about demonstrating the unwavering political will to define and then enforce the acceptable rules of conflict for everybody else. Humanity didn't just win a war, they changed the definition of survival for the entire galaxy.
We saw that the humans kept silent for 3 days while they mobilized. So here's a thought for you to take away. If your species' survival depended on it, would you rather be feared completely and absolutely by the galaxy or merely respected conditionally? Think about that trade-off the 197 species made. They surrendered their political autonomy, the idea of being equals, for the guaranteed absolute safety of their children.